everybody. Dan Illman and Mike Beer. The DRF race of the day for Friday, January the 12th, race number 8 at Oaklawn Park. We're going a demanding mile and 3/16, and it's a pretty classy starter optional claiming race. The optional claiming tag is $100,000. So some stakes caliber horses in this race, Mike. We do have a field of 9 with the 7 Frosted Departure, 6-5 on the morning line. Now, yes, Frosted Departure did wire a similar field last time out, but had everything his own way.
He did. It's going to be very interesting, not only to see if he can repeat that performance, Dan, because if he repeats it, he's going to be very tough in this race, but it'll just be interesting to see how aggressive they get early. They wanted the lead from the outside post last time. They got it, and this horse never gave that field a chance. Are they going forward in this race?
I think they might try to get forward. His best races have come when he's up close to the lead. Here's the problem. The Timeform US pace projector, just a completely different scenario than the most recent start. A fast pace situation, and on Timeform US's pace projector, they don't have Frosted Departure getting the lead. The 8 Strava is a pretty fast stretch out sprinter. I think that horse is going to go. Santos Dumont can go either way, but he was on the lead last time out.
Yeah, I won't argue too hard with the pace projector, whether or not this pace winds up being fast as this field goes a mile and 3/16. I guess that remains to be seen, but I guess I won't argue too hard with the 5 and the 8 being forward. I'm kind of with you, though, Dan. I don't see why they would try to change tactics too much with the 7.
The number 9 Haywood's Beach, the number 2 Command Performance, they would appreciate it if Timeform US is correct, and this is a fast pace. Note the LP Chiclet over there, LP designation over there, Chiclet, indicates they have the co-best Timeform US late pace rating. Let's start things out with the number 1 Buck Moon, who's tactical enough to work out a pace tracking ground saving trip from the rail. Last time out, he was in against Frosted Departure. It was a race that Frosted Departure basically controlled from start to finish, but this guy was close to those moderate fractions and just didn't make a dent late.
Yeah, speaking of a pace tracking ground saving trip that you were just mentioning, that's exactly what he got last time. I mean, he sat right behind Frosted Departure until about, I don't know, midway on the second turn, and then he just could not keep up from there. I didn't like the way he finished in that race. That was first off the claim. I don't know, Dan, maybe he'll do better here. Maybe they'll even get more aggressive from the rail this time, but I didn't really like his chances against this field.
The number 2 Command Performance, placed in the Grade 1 Champagne as a maiden, was 4-1 in the 2021 Breeders' Cup Juvenile. It hasn't exactly panned out for this horse, but he looked pretty good 2 starts back, going a mile and an 1/8 rallying from off the pace. And I think of the horses coming out of the Frosted Departure race, you're supposed to consider this one because he had no chance the way that race was run. He's a one-run closer. He needs pace. He didn't get it.
Exactly how I looked at it. I mean, he was never really involved in that race, but it's not like he didn't do any running. I mean, he actually did run on through the stretch. He just happened to have no chance in that race. I'm not going to care about it too much. Like you, I thought he ran really, really well 2 starts back. And the thing I like most about that performance is he didn't just sit, wait to the stretch and make a run. I mean, he was on the go early. He had already taken that race over by the time that field at the top of the stretch. And he stayed on really nicely. Even 3 back then, he ran a great race that day against First Mission. It was 2-5. I like the longer distance for him. I think he can get the right trip in this race, and I think he'll get a better performance this time than you got last time.
Up in class and distance for the 3, Time for Trouble, who did get a quick pace over a wet track at the fairgrounds last time out, just getting up to win an $8,000 starter allowance. Now, the race has produced a couple of next out winners, albeit against much weaker competition, one winning a 7,500 claimer with an 84 buyer speed figure. He'll appreciate a fast pace up front. He's run some decent races on wet dirt in the past, but this is a big class hike.
It seems like a tougher spot for him. I thought he ran okay last time, even with a pretty good trip and pace setup. And I'm just not going to put that much stock in the speed figure that he earned, Dan, because his prior, 3 or 4 dirt races, they're faster. And he had shown in some of those races that he can keep close to the pace. I don't mind the distance for him either. I'm going to use this horse if he's around that morning line.
The 4 Accidental Heroes taken sort of a circuitous route back to Oaklawn Park. He was successful in condition claiming competition last spring. He was claimed for $40,000, went to Western Canada of all places, earned a graded stakes win. 2 starts back in the British Columbia Derby. Here's his most recent start. This is the Premier Handicap. They're going 11 furlongs at Hastings, which is a very tight turn track. And Accidental Hero is going to get up for 3rd as the favorite. Maybe the pace didn't work to his favor in this spot. Even though he's got black type in Western Canada, his buyers are a little bit light. He caught a tough spot for his return.
It feels like a tough spot for him more than anything else. I guess I would just say I don't think I would get too caught up in the figures that he was running at a track like Hastings. I don't really feel like that applies here. Whether that makes him good enough to go with this field or not, I don't know. But he did win a grade 3 2 starts back. He's going to be what, 20-1 in this race. I don't think I would totally just overlook him.
Santos Dumont, the number 5, is versatile enough to be successful from on the lead or from off the pace. Curious to see how Chris Landeros plays this as they stretch this horse out to 1 mile and 3/16. His last race at Churchill Downs, I thought, was pretty good in the middle of September. He showed good speed. He was pressed all the way around. He came off the rail in the stretch, and he was punching on gamely to be third. It's a race that produced a couple of next out winners, with the winner winning a third level allowance at Churchill with a 101 buyer.
Yeah, I like this last race too. I think, listen, I think they'll go forward in here. If this pace gets fast, I don't necessarily think he has to be right up there on the lead. So I'm not going to worry about what kind of trip he's going to pull here. He's got some races too that I think are pretty good, Dan, and he's run well over this track in the past as well. So I think that's kind of a feather in his cap. I don't love the 6-1 morning line. If he's at that price, I'm probably not using him, but I think he's a contender in this race.
Dash Attack, the number 6 one, the Smarty Jones Stakes, New Year's Day 2022. And although he didn't really pan out as sort of a graded stakes horse, and was always sort of considered as a wet track monster early in his career, he put it together 3 starts back at Churchill Downs. It was a race that was basically a match race from start to finish. He and the runner-up, who was the favorite, kind of hooked up early. He was better than that horse, however, with a 101 buyer. The Fayette, probably a little too tough 2 starts back. He did not run well, though, last time out at Fairgrounds in the Tenacious. I don't really see an excuse.
That's why I don't really like him that much, Dan. I mean, I guess I wouldn't be too hard on him for the Fayette, but he was terrible in that race too. And then he was just bad again last time. And the more I started looking at this horse, he has that one race, 3 starts back, and I could easily poke holes in that one. It just kind of makes me not want to use him in here. That being said, I didn't expect to pull the morning line and see him 12-1 either. I mean, around that price, I guess I won't argue too hard. I'm not a big fan.
He's going to have to come back to that race 3 starts back. He has run a couple of decent races. The problem is it's either usually on a wet track or he doesn't show up. Frosted Departure's the 7. Here's his win last time out. Julian Leperoux gave this horse a very clever ride because he kind of bobbled a little bit, leaving the break. And they decided to go forward anyway, and it was the right move. Because once he got to the lead, he faced no pressure whatsoever, and he sprints on home as much the best. It's a 99 buyer, but it might be a dressed-up 99 buyer simply due to the way the race was run.
It might be. I think you're right, though. He just got such a good ride last time. It was a really smart move. He won the race in that run to the first turn. We just took things over and just kept going. It was still, listen, he still looked really strong all the way around the track in there. And it's not like, that race came out of nowhere. He's got several good races in the past. I had always, sort of taken the position on him, Dan, that I thought he was better going shorter. Maybe I'm just totally wrong about that. And he'll be better around 2 turns, but he does have to stretch out again here. And this pace is supposed to be faster.
Is he fast enough to make the lead from the 8 Strava? That's one of the main handicapping questions in this race. Strava's stretching out from 6.5 to 9.5 furlongs in this race. His second off a pretty significant layoff and his first off of the Norm Cassidy claim. Norm must have saw this horse and said, listen, I think he's going to stretch out. He didn't run very well in his first off the layoff, going 6.5. The runner-up from that race did come back to earn a 90 buyer speed figure, winning a third life allowance over the synthetic at Turfway.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll see what we get from him here. I do think they're going to try to make the lead with him, and maybe that'll be sort of, all it takes in here, especially if they leave him alone. I thought he was kind of hard to make stretching out to this distance. Dan, I can't say that I loved any of his prior races when they tried to stretch him out. It was very brief as a younger horse when they tried it. I didn't like those races, but maybe he's a different horse now.
Haywood's Beach is the number 9, and he has a chance in this race, to be sure. He really likes distance. His last race was his first start off of a lengthy layoff, and I have a feeling that was just a prep. Running him a mile just seems like when you take a route horse, return him off a layoff, and run him 6 furlongs. That race also didn't have a lot of pace to set him up, and that's what he needs. The third place finisher came back to run third against Frosted Departure. He got an 88 buyer. I could see Haywood's Beach taking a step forward with additional distance and some pace to run at.
I think that's probably how you're supposed to look at him in here. It did feel like a prep last time. They tried to make sort of a mild run around that final turn there. He didn't come close, and he got tired through the stretch. He certainly looked like he needed it. The longer distance only helps this horse. He shouldn't be a million miles out of it early either. I think he can get the right trip in this race.
Before we take a look at our top selections, please click the subscribe button on the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel for the latest DRF videos. Let's take a look at our top pick for the Friday race of the day. I have some remorse that I don't have your top selection closer, Command Performance, because His races 2 and 3 back were very good. He has back class, and he's going to get a much better setup than last time.
Right. I think you just got to give him a pass for the last one. Judge him off his races 2 and 3 starts back, and those 2 races sort of suggest that maybe he's finally ready to put it all together. He could never do that for Pletcher. Maybe he can do it now.
Of course, I'm going to try to beat the 7 Frosted Departure with Is Dash Attack, his stablemate. And his race 3 starts back, I thought was good. I think a little bit better than you thought it was. His last 2, I think we both agree, were terrible. Like you, I didn't expect him to be 12-1 on the line. I wouldn't take anything less than 8. But if he runs his good race, he's got a shot in here because he's tactical enough to sort of work out a mid-pack trip. And he's run well at Oaklawn in the past, albeit over wet going. 2-3-7-6-4, Mike, 6-7-5-1 for me. It's your Friday race of the day. It's a nice starter optional claimer. Best of luck.